Welcome to CFFL 24. Well, it's not as possibly as exciting as the Jack Bauer series. Probably better than the one, though, that came up after the spinoff. We started 24th year this year. Thank you for the people who came. We had a good time. I had a good cookout. Thank you for who has paid. If you haven't paid, there's 4 of you. Please pay before the season starts. My address is on the main page. I also emailed it to you. Since next year is the 25th year, we'd like to get a pretty good turnout. For the people who are in the area, it would be nice if you could make it. Hopefully we could get maybe like 7, 8 of you. Will be total. I think usually we get about 5. So if 2 of you more could come, Rebeck's close. A couple other people could. So hopefully we can get a good turnout for our 25th year. Also, one other thing I'm working on for next year would be an interesting little twist to our league. As the morning afters go on, I'll let you know. Right now we're in negotiations with some former legends to return for next year into something interesting with the league, and this idea was proposed by Tim. Mr. Team Price is Right. I've been thinking about it, and he actually came up with a good idea that actually works, I think, with the league, and everyone can continue to be happy with how the league is set up, and not so much set up, but cost and stuff like that. So I think it'll work out pretty cool if it works out. Probably 50-50 at best right now, but if it does, it'll be pretty awesome. So as the year goes on, we'll go into details on that. But former legends could be returning to the league for a one-time only affair. Anyway, we'll get to the morning after and kind of break down the teams. It's usually my longest show of the year, my favorite one to do, but I will try to keep it short this year. Anyway, on to the show. First of all, we'll look at the North Division. In Rogers we trust. Last year went 5-8. Just missed the playoffs. If he would have won last week, he would have made the playoffs. Good quarterback situation if Andrew Luck plays, healthy that is. David Johnson is fantastic running back. Doug Martin down the road should be good. Tevin Coleman will be solid. Could be some questions there, but David Johnson covers up a lot of warts. Doug Baldwin, T.Y. Hilton again dependent on Luck. Kelvin Benjamin, a very good third receiver. Fitzgerald, Jordan Matthews. So that could be an interesting team. The highlighted guy, T.Y. Hilton, possibly the key to the team, along with Andrew Luck. If they play well, his team should be pretty darn good. If Luck is hurt, that means Hilton will struggle. That means his team probably has some issues down the road. Sleeper is Marquise Lee. He had a pretty good year last year, and if he continues to grow, he could develop into a really good player. My sleeper, by the way, is a guy someone picked after round 12 or later. Badgers last year went 6-7. Kirk Cousins is the quarterback right now. Le'Veon Bell, awesome running back. Mike Gillislee, Patriot running back. That's why he's in yellow. If he produces to even 3/4 of LeGarrette Blount, the Badgers are going to be a very dangerous team. But if it's the usual Belichick BS, it'll be tough. Terrence West, Danny Woodhead, and a Raven backfield that is questionable just because you don't know who it's going to be, and their offense line's not great. Receivers, though, are pretty good. Brandon Cooks has a chance to be awesome this year. Keenan Allen, if he can avoid injury, would be great. Decker, again, avoiding injury, but he scores touchdowns. And Terrell Pryor blew up last year, and now he actually has a quarterback throwing to him, so that could be a really solid receiving core. Sleeper is Tarek Cohen. The Bears seem to really like him. He's tiny, but if something happens to Howard, he could really put up some good numbers. Next up is the Dingoes. Last year finished 6-7. Drew Brees, Joe Flacco, pretty solid quarterbacking. At running back, you have Fournette, Marshawn Lynch, Adrian Peterson, Matt Forte, some young guys, and one young guy and 3 quite old running backs. The linchpin of his team, couldn't resist that one, probably is Marshawn Lynch. If he 10 touchdowns out of him, something similar to Tavius Murray, he should be good. If he breaks down, could be trouble unless Adrian Peterson bounces back. He could really be hurting at running back. Antonio Brown, Greg Olsen, Deshaun Jackson, Martellus Bennett, some good receiving there. A lot of touchdown potential with that team. And also a sleeper is Julius Thomas, a guy who, as of a couple years ago, was a touchdown vulture, especially in Denver. Now he's back with Gase. Might help. He could have a good year in Miami. Myself, the Cardinals last year finished 8-5 and lost in the Super Bowl. Quarterbacks Matt Ryan and Marcus Mariota, who prior to his last preseason game looked like a breakout candidate. Not so much after that, we'll see. DeMarco Murray, Isaiah Crowell, CJ Anderson, Thomas Rawls, decent backfield, pretty high floor. Their ceiling isn't much above them for most of those guys. Maybe Crowell's got a good ceiling, but pretty non-sexy picks there, but pretty consistent players. Julio Jones, Martavis Bryant, Jimmy Graham, Willie Snead. I think a pretty good receiving core. Again, the key, Martavis Bryant. Griffith talked to me the other day and said, if Martavis Bryant plays, you could be. And I said, yeah, pretty good. He said, yeah. So if he plays well, he stays healthy, stays out of trouble, I might have a pretty good receiving core because he has the potential to get about 10 touchdowns and probably 60 yards a game at least. Sleepers, Buck Allen. Not a real fantastic player, but the chance in Baltimore with the backfield being to maybe do some damage. He also catch passes, so he could fill both roles. So perhaps a good pick. We will see on that one. Chris Carson's another one that could be a sleeper for me. Central Division, Garbage Men last year finished 7-6. They were a dangerous team at the end of the year. Cam Newton, Matthew Stafford, pretty good quarterbacking core, especially if Cam Newton bounces back anything like he was 2 years ago. Jordan Howard, Frank Gore, Theo Riddick. Howard will need to continue what he was like at the end of last year. If he has a Jeremy Hill type year, where he was great one year and then just kind of falls off, that running back core could be the downfall of the Garbage Men. Beckham, Alshon Jeffrey, Demaryius Thomas, Golden Tate, Pierre Garçon, a really deep and good receiving core. Alshon Jeffrey will be the key. If he's like the Alshon Jeffrey of a couple years ago, he'll be able to move some of those backup receivers probably and help strengthen his running backs. If not, it's a thin receiving core. And sleeper Adam Thielen, end of the year last year was fantastic. And again, it could also contribute in allowing him to trade another receiver to get a more depth at running back. Bruisers last year finished 6-7, just missing the playoffs. Jameis Winston, Carson Palmer should be set up pretty good there at quarterback. Hopefully Jameis avoids the dumb mistakes he's prone to at times, but he can make the spectacular play too. So I'm hopeful for that. LaShawn McCoy, Mark Ingram, Darren Sproles, a little thin at running back, but McCoy is extremely solid, and if Sean Payton decides to give Ingram the ball, which he needs to, that's going to be a pretty decent running back core. Gronk, DeAndre Hopkins, Tyreek Hill, Brandon Marshall, good receiving core. Gronk supposedly stopped drinking, cut out the red meat. If he's healthy, he's as good as there is in the league, especially at scoring touchdowns. 12 to 14 touchdowns is a reasonable estimate there if he does that. Tyreek Hill in yellow looked fantastic last year. He is ungodly fast, but as I mentioned during the draft, as someone who had Cordero Patterson during his second year and thought he was going to blow up, there's a lot of similarities there. Not a great quarterback either, but if they keep him involved like they did last year, he could have another good year. Sleeper is Jonathan Williams. LaShawn McCoy is prone to injury, and then he'd step up and have a pretty solid year. Next up, we have the Horned Dogs. Last year finished 7-6, I believe division winners, if I'm correct. Brady and Garoppolo at quarterback. He should be set in New England there, since their offense might be decent. Sarcasm there. Can't see my face, so. Running backs, Devontae Freeman, Fat Rob Kelly, and LeGarrette Blount. Receivers, Mike Evans, Michael Crabtree, Jarvis Landry, Tyrell Williams, Marvin Jones. A extremely good receiving core. A lot of depth, a lot of upside. Key being Blount. He's obviously not going to score as many touchdowns as he did last year. Is he going to make the team, first of all? Yeah, probably. But there's some questions there. He looked really slow and really old in the last couple preseasons, so we'll see if he can bounce back. The Eagle backfield's kind of a mess. Sleeper is DeAndre Washington. He looks like he's locked down the number 2 running back in Oakland. But otherwise, the Horned Dogs looking like a pretty good team this year. The Bucks come out with Russell Wilson and Jay Cutler at quarterback. Wilson kind of struggled in the first part of the year, but really came through at the end, and is always probably a top 5 quarterback. Running backs, Ty Montgomery, Joe Mixon, Paul Perkins. Solid, if unspectacular. Montgomery probably being the key. If he can stay healthy, catch passes, continue to dominate the carries, legitimate 1, maybe just a high-end 2, but still could be a solid pick there. If he doesn't, there could be some problems in Buckland. Receivers, Jordy Nelson, A.J. Green, Jordan Reed, Emmanuel Sanders. The Jordy and Green are the best 1-2 punch in the league at receiver. Hands down, I think. That could really carry the Bucs to a good year. Sleeper, Eric Ebron. Every year he's a sleeper. Maybe this year he comes through and really delivers to his full potential. But we will see. Remember, the Tices last year finished 5-8. Will they make this a memorable season, or will they stay locked in their cocoon? We will see. Dak Prescott is the quarterback. Melvin Gordon, Christian McCaffrey, Bilal Powell, decent running backs. Gordon has a lot of upside there. Could easily settle into the number 3 running back role in the league overall. Christian McCaffrey is the key. Will he, get a lot of touchdowns, or will he be a gadget player here and there, averaging about 50 to 60 total yards a game, or will it be closer to 100? The touchdowns will be key. 4 or 5, or will it be closer to 10? That'll be the difference possibly into a really good year and a disappointing year for the Tices. Receivers, Amari Cooper, Travis Kelce, Jamison Crowder, Jeremy Maclin. Decent receivers. Probably hanging a lot of hope on Cooper actually scoring touchdowns this year. Sleeper of Jamal Williams, like I mentioned with Ty Montgomery. It's questionable how he will do, so if he doesn't live up to the hype, Jamal Williams should be excellent there. Last year's champ, team price is right at 10-3. Roethlisberger and Wentz, an okay quarterbacking core. Running backs, probably the best running back core in the league. Ajayi, Ezekiel Elliott. Will he play? Will he not? When will he take his suspension? Dalvin Cook, Amir Abdullah. Zeke will be the key. If he plays, if his suspension isn't full 7 games, team price is right should be good. But that's going to be a lot. He's going to miss 7 weeks. It'll be questionable. Receivers, Allen Robinson, Devontae Parker, Dante Moncrief, Tyler Eifert. That'll be his downfall there. If Zeke is healthy, he can trade some of his running back depth. If he's not healthy, if he's playing, not suspended. Otherwise, that receiving core might be the downfall of team prices right this year. Sleeper of Wendell Smallwood. I mentioned with Blunt earlier, you never know who's going to take it there, so it'll be interesting to see. Team LBM last year finished 5-8. This year looks like maybe a bounce back year for Team LBM. Derek Carr, Eli Manning, a solid quarterbacking core. Todd Gurley, Carlos Hyde, Eddie Lacy. Lacy is the linchpin because he looks maybe is he the starter? Probably not at this point. Will he get goal lines? Maybe. Is he third string? Maybe. Will he stay healthy? Who knows? So there's a lot of questions. Des Bryant, Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs, Rashard Matthews. Pretty good receiving core. A lot of touchdown upside there with Adams and Des. And the sleeper of Deion Lewis. The New England backfield, you never know. Deion Lewis could have 20 points one week followed by a inactive the next. But Deion Lewis is a pretty good player, and Belichick seems to like him. Finally, we have the Gargoyles. Last year, finished 6-7. He was a division winner. I'm sorry, Horn Dogs, you weren't last year. I forgot you were the top wild card, though. Gargoyles have Rodgers and Dalton at quarterback. Very good. Running backs, Lamar Miller, Kareem Hunt, Darren McFadden. Again, that'll tie into how long Zeke is suspended for, and Jonathan Stewart. So a pretty good running back core. Solid, possibly Lamar Miller is a good number 2. Kareem Hunt's probably a really good number 2. McFadden will be a float or a flex, and Jonathan Stewart is got some upside. Receivers of Michael Thomas, Sammy Watkins, Randall Cobb, John Brown. That will be the question mark for him. Sammy Watkins is now in L.A., having Jared Goff throw to him. Randall Cobb, will he actually be involved this year? John Brown, will he play, or will the sickle cell trait keep him out? We'll see. That could be an area of concern for the Gargoyles. Sleeper of Robbie Anderson. Hey, the Jets are going to be behind a lot this year, so they got to throw it sometime. So he should be pretty darn good. This year, when I was trying to do it, it was hard to rank teams this year because most teams are probably anywhere from like a B+ to a B-. I think everyone pretty much fits in that range of all being pretty good teams. Nobody really stuck out as being awesome or terrible, as you can see there. But we'll get to the best units now, and then we'll get to the predictions. Best pick, first of all, was pick 17 and 18. A.J. Green of the Bucks and Mike Evans to the Horned Dogs. Most people thought they would go to those teams, but in the first round, so that for those two to get them in the second was fantastic. There was other teams took receivers who A, haven't panned out yet, or B, are consistently hurt. A team took a quarterback before them, and then also a team took a guy who's going to miss 7 weeks. So the questionable picks there, they might pan out. But to get two guys who are bona fide stars that late was awesome picks by those two teams. So hats off to you two on an awesome pick. Best quarterbacking, Griff might argue. I would have to say Ryan and Mariota. Rodgers is the top quarterback. However, I think Mariota's got more upside than Dalton, so I'll give myself the quarterbacking unit due to Mariota's upside. Best running back in core, Ajayi, Elliott, Cook, Abdullah, and Derrick Henry. Even if Zeke is out 7 weeks, that still probably is the best one in the league. Good depth, good upside. In the best wide receiving core, I gave it a tie between the garbage men with Beckham, Jeffrey, Demarius, Golden Tate, Pierre Garcon, and Delaney Walker, and the Horn Dogs with Evans, Crabtree, Jarvis Landry, Tyrell Williams, Marvin Jones, Chris Hogan, and Mohamed Sanu. So Horn Dogs are loaded with a lot of number 3 receivers, 5 number 3 receivers, a good number 2 and a great number 1. So there's some upside there. As for the predictions, I'm changing it up this year a little bit. I'm going to predict the North Division to be a tie between the Cardinals and in Rodgers we trust. David Johnson will make up for any some mistakes that possibly are there. Not saying that there was, but he'll help carry the team into a divisional tie. Horn Dogs, I will pick you to win the division this year in the Central, and the South Division was tough. I thought all the teams were pretty darn close, but I will go with the Gargoyles in this one due to Ezekiel Elliott's suspension. Super Bowl 24, I will pick. I'm picking myself. Outside of myself, I think Jenna asked me who I thought the best team was. I said, well, beside myself, obviously. So that was my Griff answer. I will have to go with a team returning to the Super Bowl for, I believe, his 3rd or 4th time. The Horn Dogs, I think, did a pretty good job this year. They will suffer the loss to me in the Super Bowl, but we will see this year. Thank you for tuning in. Again, I'm sorry it ran a little long. Longer than usually even. I'm sorry. But thank you for tuning in. We'll have a good year. Super Fantasy season number 24 here in the CFFL. Best luck to everyone. And to give you the Dan Griffin, sorry about your fantasy team. Best luck, everybody. Bye.